Hi, my name is Sam Johnson and I'm a voice teacher. Today I will be reacting to and analyzing Jazmine Sullivan performing Pick Up Your Feelings. So notice when she's doing that melisma, that really long run that she just did, she wasn't staying on the same vowel all the way through. She was kind of chewing on it. She was letting the colors of the vocal fry come in, like that kind of nasty sound, which is actually a really healthy way of creating vocal distortion, and it's what is really commonly used with harsh metal vocalists. So she's just using barely any pressure. That's kind of what's required to make that kind of sound. She's kind of chewing on it, going moving through a bunch of different vowels. So when you're doing runs, I think it's important to figure out like what the base vowel sound that you want to do is, and then also let it move, because if you keep the same vowel all the way through, sometimes it just sounds a little bit too clean.
You say that I've been acting different, yeah. Funny how I finally flipped the script on you. And you don't want to double dipping, yeah. You so sloppy how I caught you slipping up. You're off the leaves, run me my keys. No more popping up the idiot, yeah. I ain't even got the miles to trip on, yeah. No.
Okay, so they're taking different camera angles and mixing it up to make it look like a cool produced video, but they're not doing very much to her vocals. So sometimes there are points where her mouth doesn't match up with the sound that's being created, but the sounds that we're hearing are like totally live. You can hear a little bit of processing on them, just a little, but it sounds minimal. It sounds like what a really live voice sounds like to me. Like this is not the same thing. This doesn't match up, and that's totally fine.
Wake up, need a zip, Hennessy, take a sip. Look at my jeans, I'm too big. I ain't got no room for extra baggage. So don't forget to come and pick up your don't leave no pieces. You need to hurt.
Okay, so on the top with the harmonies, they're not doing feelings, because that sounds completely insane. Most of the time when you sing, you want to use vowels that are similar to what you would do for speech. But when you start getting up into those high notes, like even just up there at the D and the C, you need to start opening it up. So it turns into feeling, and it's just a much better sound overall. Even if you want it to be a true E, we can't go feelings, because that sounds crazy. Feelings would be a much more appropriate way of getting that, and that's by dropping the jaw and letting the tongue do all of the work. But I like the vowel modification that they made.
Hurry and pick up your while I'm up cleaning, boy please, I don't need it, memories and all that shit, and you can keep it. Don't forget to come and pick up your
So even on that run where she let it stay more of that ooh, it opened up to an at the bottom. If it was a ooh, that would be a totally different sound. So all of these are just choices. There's nothing inherently right or wrong with any of these things. The thing to be in mind, and that you're probably watching this for, is how can I sound a little bit more like Jazmine? How does she have her specific style? Part of it is by letting those vowels migrate as she's going through her range, as she's doing a bunch of different runs. It's not the exact same vowel. And I think that in all styles of music, it's really important to recognize that we can't have a totally locked vowel position, even if what sound we want is going to be fairly similar all the way through. What she's doing is like totally changing the sound that she wants all the way through, and her vowel shape, the position of her mouth and her throat, is changing to accommodate what she's hearing in her head. But even for people who want it to be more of a similar thing, if you get too locked into the same form, the same function, ooh, all the way through, it's gonna start sounding weirder at different parts of your range.
I don't need no pieces. I'm trying to find a buck to get for you. You and I, the chances of forgiving you. Yeah, listen, I'm listening just for you to go and break my heart again. I learned my lesson. Yeah, and I ain't coming. And you're missing what you had now. And I bet you I look better, don't I? New phone.
So that whole phrase she was kind of doing in this poutier lip position. So she's not like moving her lips a ton as she's going between all these words. She's letting the tongue do most of the work, and I think that is a really good thing to do. Gosh, those plants are awesome.
No more benefits, Papa presents. Hairstyle, no grip. I ain't got no room for extra baggage. So don't put
baggage. So baggage. It's not baggage, baggage. That's a really smart thing to do. When she goes to her really low notes, she does let her larynx drop just a little bit, which gives it a more kind of sound. I don't know what the best descriptor is. Leave a comment below. What do you think the best descriptor of that sound that she gets when she goes to those low notes? Because I'm just saying, like, functionally, you can hear that the larynx is dropping. There's not really any other way to get those sounds. But when it comes to just defining these things, how we describe all of these things, like, your guess, your description is just as good as anything that I could ever come up with.
get to come and pick up your don't leave no pieces. You need to hurry up, pick up your feeling. Why I'm a bleeding boy, please. I don't need it. That remember breeze on the street. You can keep it. Get to come and pick up your feeling.
So it is a low note. Like, she's making it sound significantly lower by lowering her larynx, though. And that's because there's a tonal component to pitch. If we use our tone, the way that we produce our vowels, to bring out more of those low frequencies, the low end of the sound, it sounds a lot lower, even if the pitch itself might not be that low. You can do that on really high notes too, and that's what makes it sound super full, where if you kind of close it down like what I was talking about with the E earlier, it starts sounding like it brings out all of those high frequencies, and it's usually not as desirable of a sound. What she's doing at the low part of her range is really exploiting that so that she can just paint with a totally different color. That's a really valid way of doing it.
Put a lock on the door with my heart.
Like that, I think, is a really good default place. And you could pull that to the lower register.
Now I'm really done. I deserve so much more than you gave to me.
Yeah, she's using that vocal fry through pretty much everything. And what happens with that is part of the vocal fold stiffens and it just kind of pops, where the rest of the vocal fold is actually doing a full vibration. And that creates this extra noise on top of the regular phonation that you would get from just speech, like what I'm doing right now. And like if I was talking really lazy, it's kind of doing the same sort of thing. If I'm talking in this kind of place, there is tone, there is pitch underneath it, but there's also all this noise on top of it. What she's doing is doing that in more of a sung range.
So now I'm saving me, and I made more peace, so you can run them streets. But don't forget to come and pick up your don't need no pieces. You need to hurry and pick up your feeling.
Okay, she's kind of articulating each note with her jaw, which is something that I don't think is totally necessary, but it does help create some clarity. There are too many really high-level vocalists who are proficient in agility like this that do articulate with their jaw for me to be like, you can't do that, it's just going to create tension. She doesn't look tense at all to me. She does not look tense. You hear all of this like nasty distortion on top of her voice. That's from that vocal fry thing that I was just talking about, and I think it's killer good. She sounds so awesome.
Please, boy, please, I don't need you, all the shit you can keep. I don't need.
Gosh, I love that sound. And then she goes into that kind of scattier sound, that jazzy ba-da-dee-da-da. It's incredible. She's drawing from all of these different influences, from jazz, from traditional R&B, from... It's a really jazzy sound, actually, the way that she uses her voice. And you can hear, especially with how she adjusts her vowels at the bottom to bring out those really low pitches. That's like something that jazz legends do all the time, that if you listen to Ella when she goes to her low end, it kind of goes into that dopier sound. It's the exact same thing.
Don't leave no pieces.
Yeah, she's killer good, but she's not like forcing any of those sounds out. All of that dirty distortion sound. So if you are wanting to sing R&B like Jazmine Sullivan, or like any of these really fantastic R&B singers that use a lot of distortion, do not try to wreck your instrument in order to do this. There's a lot of people who think you have to like be a really heavy smoker to make this happen. And while if you are a heavy smoker, sometimes that does create an edema on the vocal folds, which can create a similar effect. But you don't have to do that in order to create the sounds that she's doing. It's no energy, it's no effort, and it's very similar to what you would do for metal music, for screaming. But like, don't push to make this happen. Start with really, really quiet, even, easy sounds, because she's not using effort when she's doing this. The effort that she's using is in communicating. And that's what makes her so effective, because she's trusting that her voice is in a good place, because it is. And then she doesn't need to focus on managing her voice. She can just focus on telling the story and on creating the sounds that she wants to create, not on trying to create sound and efforting the sound out. So if you are stuck in this need to create, to like force and use effort in order to make sound, just back off. Like, start by going way, way quieter, because she's letting the microphone do a ton of the work for her. She's awesome. I like the song. I love the guitar. I love those backup singers. I like how they have this really crystalline sound, and then we hear her gritty sound on top of it. It creates this really nice back and forth without using too many instruments. It's fantastic. Really good work. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Go check out the links in my description and leave a comment. That's the biggest thing. If you leave a comment, subscribe, and ring the bell, those are the biggest things. There are so many big things, but do those ones. Thank you.